Hello again. I'm Amanda and I am so happy to be with you. It's good morning right now in California, and I hope whatever time of the day you're watching this that you're having a great day. I know our lives are a little bit different right now, but I want to share some thoughts with you about praying today, praying like Daniel. So last night my boys and I were reading our Bible story. They chose Daniel in the lion's den, and as we were reading, it just really struck me again how Daniel's life was in upheaval. Talk about different circumstances. He was a young man when he was taken out of his country, away from his family, and plopped in the middle of this pagan world where he was just expected to comply with a lot of things and wasn't surrounded by people who were like-minded. But we're told that Daniel from a very early age chose to follow God, that he had an excellent spirit, that he was faithful. Daniel 6 tells us those things. And so I want to learn from Daniel. And as we were looking at this story last night, it struck me again that Daniel really made a habit out of prayer. And I think right now is a great time to work that back in. Now, don't let this lovely setup give you the illusion of my life not being crazy. Right now, I am teaching part-time online. I've got all three of my boys who are 2, 5, and 6 at home, and I'm teaching first grade to one of them, as well as trying to keep my house in order without a break from them because they're all home from school. And so it's a little bit crazy right now. It's out of the norm. And so we're having to figure out new routines. So I want to give you a few quick tips on how to pray like Daniel during this time that is very different. Maybe start some new habits and try some things that you haven't before or that you've been doing, and I can maybe encourage you to continue on doing them. So the first thing I want to mention is actually something that Moses did, but it's something that we can assume Daniel probably did too. If you want to look in Deuteronomy 6 through 9, this is Moses' last kind of sermon. It's his love song basically to the people he's loved and served, and a reminder to them of what they're supposed to do. Deuteronomy 6, starting in verse 6. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit down in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down, when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorpost of your house and on your gates. So the first thing I want to tell you is we need to get God's word in front of us. And I don't mean right this second by Bible reading. I mean put Post-it notes up all over your house, because getting God's word in front of you will remind you to pray. This is an example. I have this one, I think, in 3 places. If you want to see, it's about the kind of woman that I want to be. It's when she speaks, her words are wise, and kindness is the rule for everything she says, from Proverbs 31. And what it does is it gives me God's word, and I turn it into a prayer. Every time I see this, I think it's in my bathroom, it's on my refrigerator, and it's in my office. And so one of the things Moses says to do is have God's word all around you. I know many of us have signs in our home, but maybe do a verse a day, a verse a week, something that's really applicable that you need to remember and that you need to speak in prayer often. I need to speak this in prayer often, so it's up in my house. So some ways that you can do this: Post-it notes are a great way to just stick them around your home, but also you could start a text group with some friends, with one friend, with your spouse. You could post online and ask people to respond with their verses that are encouraging them in prayer as well. So make some choices today to get God's word in front of you in a way that will help spur you on to pray without ceasing, as we're told to do. Get things that you need to remember, things you need to speak, because even just reading a verse out loud is communing with God in a way that's going to lift our spirits, that's going to deepen our relationship and our faith in Him. The second habit I want to recommend is what we see Daniel doing. Again, we're told that he was excellent in spirit. He was recognized as a leader among the Hebrews that were brought into captivity. He was faithful to God. And it says he did the things he did from an early age. So he developed these habits. And right now is a great time to do that, to develop a habit. So in Daniel 6, still in Deuteronomy, just a minute. Daniel 6, verse 10, it says, now when Daniel knew that the writing was signed, he went home. That was the writing, of course, of the evil men that they got King Darius to sign that it wasn't okay to pray to anybody else. He went home, and in his upper room with his windows open toward Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times a day and prayed to God, as was his custom since the early days. Daniel didn't let anything get in the way of that time. He set aside time 3 times a day. If you're like me, I tend to go a little more with, I'm going to get to it. When I get to it, I'll work it through my day. But a lot of times, especially right now, it's hard to do that. I just got done baking muffins, making coffee, eating with my boys, playing with them for a minute, trying to get people dressed and keep them from making a crazy mess before the day gets started. And so it's really easy to let the day get away from us. So I would encourage you right now, as our schedules are changing, maybe you have more time, maybe you have less time, but choose times. 3 is a great example. But if you want to do more, of course you can. If you want to pray every hour on the hour, do a short prayer. That's a great habit to get into. If you want to, I know there's a hashtag midday, that a group of Christians, they stop at midday and they pray about things going on in the world. So you can choose a time that works best for you, but set an alarm on your phone. Make it a point to stop and to pray, even if it's a really quick prayer. I would encourage you to set aside a time to do longer, but like Daniel did, it was his custom and he didn't let anything get in the way of that. So make it a custom, a commitment, even when it was dangerous for him to do so, when he was busy. Daniel was an important leader. He had a lot going on, but he stopped down to pray. And so even when it was inconvenient. So that's just a couple of habits that I would encourage you to work into your schedule if you haven't already. So make it a point to get God's word in front of you in verse form and post-it notes through text messages, so that you can have things to pray about that are deep and rich from God's word. And second, make it a habit. Set specific times throughout the day to stop and talk to God, and make sure that you are in conversation with him, in connection with him, and quieting your spirit so that you can find that peace and strengthen your faith. I hope this blesses you today. I want to read one more thing. This is what King Darius says about Daniel's God after God saves him from the lions. And it's the end of verse 26, Daniel 6:26. For he is the living God and steadfast forever. His kingdom is the one which shall not be destroyed, and his dominion shall endure to the end. He delivers and rescues, and he works signs and wonders in heaven and on earth, who has delivered Daniel from the power of the lions. And that's the same God who's protecting us. So I hope you have a great day. Get God's word in front of you and pray without ceasing.